Hey guys, how's it going? This is Wolfgar from State 329. So we just got done with a Clash of Zones, our first week of first month of Clash of Zones, and we've started having a lot of questions just about when Doomsday is coming. Everyone's concerned about Doomsday. Nobody has any clue about Doomsday or anything like that, and effectively. No one really has any ideas about Doomsday. So I thought I would show you guys how you can find out the timeline for everything. So this is a video just about the timeline of events that happen during the game and how you can actually find those. So how you can find these, if you click up on the events tab, just up here, it has that little 1 right next to it. So you click on that events tab, you're going to come to your current events. So currently we have a daily challenge going. If you click on the starting soon, it'll come up with your up and coming events for the week. So we have Zombie Siege event coming up soon. We have our Clash of Zones warm-up rounds again. And we have our Battle for the Launch Center coming up. So what I'm going to show you is if you click this eye up in the top corner, it'll actually take you to kind of the long-term calendar for events. Now, if you take a look, this very first one is the daily challenge kills. So basically, if you recall when you first start playing this game, after a little bit of time, you end up with these daily challenges. Typically, you start getting those daily challenges at level 6, or at level 7, but they start coming out with specific daily challenges that kind of follow a routine. These challenges are slightly different, but basically, at the end of each week, you end up with a kill event. That's what this particular event indicates, that there is a kill event that starts on weekends where you can reach certain points and get rewards. Now, if you take a look, there's actually an arrow just to the left of that skull that I'm on right now for the daily challenge kills. Now, if you recall, when you first start a state, the very first kill event is actually the next weekend. So this arrow here actually goes and indicates a week. Okay, or let's just call it a cycle. But in that cycle is 1 week. Now, after that week, you end up on the daily challenges. You end up having that kill event happening that week. And then after a little bit of time, you find that the launch center is about to open. So then the next event is the battle for the launch center. Now, what happens here is on this skull right back here, 1 step back, your daily challenge kills events happen for a week, then happens for a second week, indicated by the arrow just to the right of that, and then the launch center opens. So if you recall, after the very first kill event is announced and comes out, you have 15 days until the battle for the launch center opens. That's indicated by the skull is 1 week, the arrow is 1 week, and then the launch center opens on that 15th day after the first battle. Now we're going to follow the same progression through the timeline. You battle for the launch center, that is 1 week. You have a second battle for the launch center the next week, indicated by the arrow between launch center and cause qualifiers. And then you go into your Clash of Zones qualifiers. You go into the Clash of Zones qualifiers for 1 week, and then a second week before you get to your Clash of Zones competition. So again, each of these arrows is indicative of 1 cycle or 1 week worth of competition. Now, at this point, you're at the Clash of Zones competition, and this is where the arrows start actually indicating something slightly different. So up until this point, every single arrow and every single skull indicates 1 week. At this point, once the Clash of Zones competition opens, the Clash of Zones competition is 4 to 5 weeks. So you have 4 weeks worth of competition and 1 week, I believe 1 week worth of qualifiers again. Actually, sorry, 2 weeks worth of qualifiers again. So effectively you regress back to here, hit 2 weeks worth of qualifiers, and then your Clash of Zones. So just like kind of how you would play a board game, you go back, you hit these 2 weeks worth, you end up back here, which progresses you 1 arrow. So now, based on that timeline, Clash of Zones competition happens here. We, in my state, are now back to our Clash of Zones qualifiers. We have 2 weeks worth of Clash of Zones qualifiers to get us back to our Clash of Zones competition, which will be as if we were on this arrow, the first arrow just above the Clash of Zones competition. Then we regress back to the Clash of Zones qualifiers, 2 weeks worth, before we hit the Clash of Zones competition again, indicating that top arrow on the screen. And then finally after that, we cycle to Doomsday. After Doomsday, the same cycle happens with that Clash of Zones competition, except it's in the Doomsday style, where you're now attacking the shelters. And after that, you end up at the immigration. So basically, if we take a look at it, once Clash of Zones happens, which we are now we are into our 5th week of this. We have hit the 4-week mark. We finished up the 4th week. We are now into the 5th week of this. You have another 12 weeks or 3 months before you hit Doomsday. This gives everyone plenty of time to actually go through and collect a lot of diamonds, collect a lot of everything, to actually do anything that they need to do before making it to Doomsday, when stuff starts getting a little more difficult and you start fighting for territories and winning crazy good rewards and all that sort of stuff. Now, in terms of that, state immigration then happens. This has started happening in some of those older states, at which point, once that has started happening, then there is the final event, which is yet to be released. But just in terms of that timeline, each of these Clash of Zones competitions is 4 weeks, but it does regress back to the COS qualifiers each week, as I can show you right here. We're at the Clash of Zones warm-up here, which puts us in a 2-week cycle before we head back into that competition, which takes us 1 step forward, just like any other board game, that will then get us 1 step forward after another cycle to actually land us on that next event, which is Doomsday. So that means at this point, we currently have 12 more weeks to actually go before we hit there, and people will have around 18 weeks from the time they first hit Clash of Zones, from the first time they hit the Clash of Zones qualifier, before they hit Doomsday. So nothing to freak out about. You have plenty of time, but I just wanted to lay that timeline out for people, since everyone had kind of issues with the timeline of it. We've had a lot of people asking all sorts of questions just about when Doomsday is, how they can prepare for Doomsday, and everything like that. And the only thing I can really suggest is, well, just keep on building. Keep on getting as many of these buildings up as possible, so that when you do actually go into Doomsday, you can spend a little more time focusing on the Doomsday quests and the Doomsday events rather than anything else. But what that takes is basically having these buildings up as high as possible to actually get there as quickly as possible, so that Doomsday becomes a little easier. So yeah, if you guys like this video, I mean, it's just based on the timeline of events. If you guys like this video, please click like and subscribe. And hopefully I'll be bringing out some more content for you guys soon. They did just release the class hall building. At some point, hopefully they will actually enable it to work instead of giving just this blank tile up top. But once they've done that, hopefully I'll be able to do a little bit of a video about the different class stuff and the national quest as well. So yeah, if you want to see more content, by all means, subscribe, like, and follow along. And yeah, cool.